Hi everybody, it's Jen and welcome back to my channel, Hallmark Plus More, where we watch and talk about shows, movies, mysteries, Hallmark ornaments, and anything else that floats your boat. So today I'm going to be reviewing Tracker Season 2, Episode 9. So before I get into my review, I just want to thank everybody who watches and likes my videos, subscribes to my channel, leaves me comments. I appreciate you so much, so thank you. Getting into this episode, the flashback shows the Gina Pickett case, which is this ongoing case that's kind of a side story on the show. It's really the only case Coulter Shaw hasn't solved. It's from 10 years ago. A girl goes missing, and it turns out that Coulter was actually dating Gina's sister at the time of the disappearance. So this is personal because he actually knew Gina and he made a promise to his then girlfriend he was going to find out what happened to Gina. So, fast forward 10 years, they're obviously not dating anymore, but he still, wants to fulfill that promise. He still wants to find out what happened to Gina. So it's personal on that level, but it's also personal to where this is the only case that he really hasn't solved, right? So, and we've seen them kind of show, flashbacks of this case, or even show us during a regular episode in case they'll show us, a little side story of him seeing Frank Wells, which we believe is Gina's ex-boyfriend or, acquaintance and knew her. So Coulter always thought that he was involved. So we've actually seen in a couple episodes where he's like gone to his house and talked to him, but they have no evidence. So that I think is upsetting for him too, because he really thinks that he could have been involved. So, seeing it in the flashback, showing several scenes all revolving around Gina Pickett's case, makes me think, okay, hopefully maybe we'll solve it or we'll find out some more information in this episode. So, because remember, usually when you see the flashbacks, they show you past scenes to kind of show you what's going to come up in this episode. So, I hope you enjoy the episode. Just to talk about it, it starts out with a young boy, or maybe a college kid, um, trying to get into his car at night, right? He went grocery shopping. He's talking to his mom on the phone, right? And he gets in the car and, I guess some, chloroform or gas. And, he kind of gets kidnapped in his own vehicle. But what's scary is the guy is wearing like a gas mask, covers up his whole face. So it's kind of scary looking because you can't really see who it is. And, you're driving and you get in your car and you turn around and he's in the back seat and it's like, whoa, kind of, freaks you out there. So we're like, okay, so now, Coulter is going to find this missing boy, because he solves a case in every episode. But then they go to talking about the Gina Pickett case. And he teams up with a retired cop named Keaton, which you've seen from previous episodes. I like him. He's an older guy. In one of the previous episodes, Coulter's missing person. He runs into him because he has an old case. And Coulter actually helps him solve it. Not necessarily on purpose, but as teaming up with his case that he was at the time. So, Colton's like, if there's anything I can do. And Coulter Shaw was like, actually, there's this old case that I really could use some fresh eyes on. So that's kind of how he got involved. And he's really given us our one really big lead. So, as a cliffhanger before the holiday of 2024, that was kind of the cliffhanger, the last scene in the episode showed that Keaton got this guy Silva to talk, and Silva and Wales were friends. So remember, Frank Wales is somebody that Coulter already thought was involved, right? But can't really prove it. So this is really good information. Silva is talking and saying, hey, you need to talk to Wales. He's the one, that lured Gina to the farm, which is where she was left. Wales didn't go in, and give gave her to the teacher. So now we know there's a man out there called the teacher, and he, recruits these guys to bring him girls to the farm. So that's all we really know. Silva just said, if the teacher wanted somebody, he wanted Gina. So if you saw my last video on tracker episode, you heard me say like nothing really can come of that. That's good. So I was a little nervous when I was like, oh wow, okay, we've got some, serial rapist or some kind of, psychopath who likes to torture or kill girls. We don't know. But it's a little scary, right? If he has a name called the teacher, and they take him to this place called the farm, how many other women or young girls have been there, right? So we kind of get to explore a little bit of the Gina Pickett case. So they do go back and talk to Frank Wales, and they kind of tell him like, hey, Silva told us, you were responsible. You were the one who brought Gina to the farm, like, spill basically, like we want to know. Kind of threatening, not a friendly conversation. And he does tell them like, yes, the teacher, he knew a lot of things about me, he kind of forced me to do things for him, and he liked Gina, and so, I brought her to the farm for him. So again, sounds kind of scary and creepy, right? So, what does he do with with these women? How many other women are there, right? How many other recruits are there? I mean, so far we've heard Silva and Whale say that the teacher knew things about him. So you're starting to think maybe he's brainwashing them. Maybe he's researching these people before he recruits people. So definitely by hearing more information, I'm thinking he is a, very smart, creepy psychopath, right? That this isn't just a first time, oh, I think Gina's cute, why don't you bring her to me? No, this is something that's he's thought out, I'm thinking there's multiple victims. This is kind of scary and creepy. And then you have the case with the boy, right? He doesn't kill him, he kidnaps him, and then you see the little boy. I keep saying little boy, and I apologize. I think he's a college kid, so I apologize. The young man, we find out his name is Brandon, and Keenan actually finds out that there was a missing young man as well. So we see a scene with him and the man in that big gas mask, kind of creepy, comes into the room, and then he's eating food. He's not tied up or anything, he's just in a room, and then all of a sudden he says, are you finished? And he stands up and he says, yes, teacher. And he says, okay, great, we've got a lot to do. So right then I'm like, okay, so this isn't just a typical missing persons case that Coulter Shaw's gonna, find the person. This whole episode is going to be about the teacher, because the beginning scene where the man is kidnapped is all relating back to the teacher. So that might be why, Wales and Silver don't know what the teacher looks like or anything about him, because he's wearing this huge gas mask. But he has this spell over them, because we saw this young man kidnapped, and within days, he's already saying, yes, master, yes, teacher. So it definitely scary. Like I said, kind of serial kidnapper, serial killer vibes, really kind of creepy. So now I'm like, okay, we got to find this guy. So basically, they ask Wales, like, how did you meet him? How did he get you to do these things? And he says, well, I met him 11 years ago in a rest stop bathroom. but he has this hold over me. They say he knew things about me. He said I was special, even with all of my criminal record, what I've done, how I've been bad, that I'm still perfect, even though I have these imperfections. So it seems like more of like a brainwashing thing, like a father-son relationship. Like, I know you've done these terrible things, but you're still perfect in my eyes. And, just kind of really brainwashing them to do what he wants. Now, what he wants these people to do, that's the scary part, right? So we also find out later that there's a missing girl. She's been missing for 3 days. Her name is Hannah Olson. So now, it's really starting to shape up. There was no leads except Wales, and, Shaw thought he had something to do with it, but he would visit him every couple years or every year on Gina's disappearance, the day she disappeared, and kind of talk to him, but he never gave him any information. So now we kind of have a little bit more. Now that we find out Shaw is not having a typical, tracker episode where he finds a missing person. This is all about the teacher. That young man that got kidnapped at the beginning, Brandon, he is now working for the teacher. So now you're like, okay, as creepy and psychotic as this guy is, I'm kind of like, all right, we're going to get some kind of resolve for this Gina Pickett case. So that's nice to hear. And, Bobby does Bobby. I love Bobby. I love Velma. I love Rennie. If you see my video, she's one of my favorite characters on the show. But they work together, and they, Wales finally says, I'm going to tell you where he took Gina. Like, I'm going to show you where the farm is. So again, this was 10 years ago. So we expect it to be abandoned. We're not just going to show up and there he is with another victim, right? But they go to the farm. It is abandoned. But they get some, they have obviously get some evidence there. They see a skeleton chained, and they see like a flower pot, but the pot actually looks a little clean. So, Shaw picks it up and he sees cassette tapes. They're actually camcorder video tapes, and they have names on them, and one of them says Gina. So, of course, I get goosebumps because I'm like, okay, he's a psychopath. What did he tape these girls doing? I mean, obviously your mind goes to the worst, and you're like, okay. But they play the video for Gina, right? And she's chained to a chair, and he's kind of interrogating her, talking about like who's the most important person in your life. And, well, I'm going to let you feel the pain that I felt. So then I was like, okay, I don't want to know what he's doing to this girl, because I'm going to assume the worst, and I really don't want to see it on tape. So I'm glad they kind of stopped the tape at that point. I'm sure the police and the FBI, I'm sure they all looked through it. But at least we can confirm, that the teacher has Gina, and we saw a video of her. So, he obviously gives all the tapes to the police because there's multiple tapes there with different names on it. So, like I said, this is a serial rapist, killer, whatever, because he's done this for a long time. From what it seems like he's got a pretty good operation. Silva and Wales were giving him girls 10 years ago, and now we just saw Brandon just last week get taken, and all of a sudden now he's like, yes, teacher. So, he's been doing this for at least 10 years, if not longer, right? So, I'm definitely glad, he even, Coulter even gets Rennie involved to kind of represent Wales to get him to talk. And after he gives up the location at the farm, he actually says, I know where he took Gina, but I won't tell you. I have to show you. So that kind of was like, okay, why do you have to show us? Right? And Rennie even said to Coulter, like, I'll represent him, but it seems like he's holding back, almost like he wants to protect the teacher, like the teacher has this spell over him, even 10 years later. So hearing that, and then hearing, I'll only show Shaw where it was. And then, of course, Coulter's Coulter, of course, he agrees. And they go to this abandoned hospital or old hospital. And Wales is like, yeah, he keeps them upstairs at a nursing station. And so I'm like, okay, you're at night, you're at an old hospital. hospital. Like, this is creepy, right? So he handcuffs Wales to the truck and goes in, and he hears noise. And I'm like, oh no, what's happening, right? So he hears the noise. He goes in, he sees a girl strapped to the chair. It's Hannah Olsen. And she doesn't look too beat up, but it's nighttime, you don't know. But, Shaw uncuffs her, unwraps her from the chair and is like, you're going to be okay. And then all of a sudden you look at the door and you see, the gas mask, and you're like, oh, like the teacher's here, right? And he sees Coulter. And of course, the girl's freaked out. And he throws in some kind of gas or something, and they start choking. So, like, Coulter pushes the door open, they get out. And of course, they're like grasping for air because the teacher locked them in there, but threw something in there. And all of a sudden you see somebody kind of hit Shaw, like he's already kind of trying to catch his breath, and somebody just knocks him over. So obviously you think it's the teacher because you saw the gas mask, he's there. And it turns out it's Brandon, right? The gentleman that he recruited. And he has this huge axe. And he's like ready to use the axe to kill him. Like, he's just got the axe and he's ready to come down on him. And then all of a sudden you hear a gunshot and you're like, okay, well, he was untying the girl before the teacher showed up. He did call and like say, hey, Keaton, this is where I am. Like, I need you to come and kind of call him back up. So that's who I thought it was, even though it was really fast. No, it was Wales. He got out of the handcuffs in the truck and he shoots Brandon and really saves Shaw's life because he's coming down with an axe, right? So then he leaves. So I'm like, okay, he knows that he takes her to the hospital, and he's still doing it 10 years later. So Wales is going after the teacher, right? Shaw is trying to catch his breath. He still has Hannah there. So I'm like, okay, Brandon is either dead or passed out. Hannah's safe. Go after him because he's going to the teacher. And so the next scene you see is Wales in front of the teacher, and the teacher takes off his gas mask, and you're like, yes, we can finally see what this man looks like, this terrible person. And he goes, oh, Franks, and he starts doing this, kind of like his spell brainwashing thing. Oh, I've been thinking about you. I think about you every day. I miss you. And Wales wants to kill him, but it's like when he's saying these things, he's hesitating. And the teacher goes up to him and he starts touching his face. And I'm like, this is not good, right? And then he just slits his throat. So, I mean, this guy's completely psychotic. He's telling him how much he misses him and loves him, and then he just slits his throat. However, while he does that, or right after he does that, Wales does get a shot off. So Shaw hears the shot, and he hit the teacher. So at least the teacher is wounded now, but he's running because, right? So Coulter Shaw does catch up to the teacher, and we put him on the ground. Where's Gina? So I mean, as creepy as this episode is, I'm so glad they finally caught the teacher, because this is a very terrible man. And you find out a lot about after they catch him, right? You find out his real name is Noah Darview, and he's a traveling doctor. I think they said he was an anesthesiologist. And he admitted to killing Gina. He told him where the bodies are buried, some field behind the hospital. And as creepy as this guy is, imagining how long he's been doing this, I'm so glad they finally caught him. Apparently, he's been doing this for so long. When he was a young man, he used to bring the women, he used to find them. And as he got older, he recruited people, college kids, kids that have been in trouble, and he kind of brainwashes them and puts them under this spell, kind of like a father-son relationship, I guess. And he gets these young men to do his dirty work for him. So if they ever get caught, grabbing a missing girl, it's never going to come back to Noah, right? So, he's got this great operation going that he's been doing for decades. How many victims, we don't know. And, at one point in the episode, they said, like, why didn't you just stop? Why are you so afraid of him? And Whale said, well, one time, yeah, after we took a girl, we told him that there was a witness, somebody saw us take her, and the teacher followed him back to his house and slit his throat in the shower. And Wales was like, well, and he's like, no, the teacher made us watch, like he made us go there and watch him do it. So he's definitely psychotic. Like this guy is just scary all the way around, right? So I'm definitely glad they got him off the streets. Obviously, Bobby did, some work in Velma. They definitely helped out during the case. So an interesting episode, I want to say a great outcome. I mean, they got a terrible person off the street. He's not going to hurt any more girls and damage young men, right? And then Gina's sister comes and tells, like she has a memorial service for her sister. And Coulter's like, what are you going to do now? He's like, she goes, I'll probably travel. I've always stayed close to home in case Gina comes back. So this is closure for her, which I think it's going to be closure for a lot of those families of those missing women. So definitely not a happy episode. He was a terrible person. I'm glad he's, off the street and going to jail and justice. But definitely those families can get closure. When you lose a loved one or you don't know what happened to them, they disappear, they run away, or they're kidnapped or just a cold case, you always wonder and you have that closure now knowing, because when you grieve, there's this guilt, like I could have done something, right? I should have done something different. So I'm just glad these families are getting closure. So definitely a good episode. I'm kind of surprised that they brought it up now. I'm happy because I knew this was a terrible person once we found out more information. But they've kind of been showing a little bit of the Gina Pickett case through each episode. And now that it's resolved, I wonder if they're going to give us something else to kind of go off of as a side story. But I love Coulter Shaw. I love everybody in this show. I hope you enjoyed, this episode. I hope you enjoyed my review. And, until the next episode, I will see you then. Bye.